Rebels, sarcastic remarks, smart mouths, people who defy authority, these are all often depicted glamorously and even in a heroic manner, and he's the hero of his show. But God did not call us to one-up each other or to say, talk to the hand. He called us to have a relationship with him. So this is the test. When you have a relationship with someone, you know that person. Just about every Christian at some point in his or her walk will doubt whether they truly know God. So the word know in the Greek is ginosko. Coincidentally, this sounds an awful lot like the Spanish word for to know, which is conozco. Ginosko means to grasp the full reality and nature of something. So how do we know whether we fully grasp God? An answer can be found in 1 John 2, 3 through 6. In fact, in my Bible, this section is subtitled, The Test of Knowing Him. It starts out like this. Now by this we know that we know him. And I really like the wording there because when you say you know that you know that you know, it means certainty. We know that we know him if we keep his commandments. So that's the heart of the answer here. We obey, we listen, and respond. In fact, John 10:27 says, My sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me. So the sheep know the voice of their shepherd, and he keeps them from danger. Relationship is demonstrated by obedience. If I'm at a dog park, and it's full, it's crowded, it's full of people, it's full of dogs off their leashes, there are children everywhere, what's one clear indication of which dog is mine? How can you tell? The dog who comes to me, who responds to my voice and obeys, that one is mine. I looked up a study guide, it's study guide 167 in a book called The Teacher's Commentary, and it was saying that you cannot know God and be unresponsive to his commands. This person that chooses not to express an attitude of love to others may know about God, but doesn't really know him. It says, if you wonder if we're really responsive to Jesus' voice, we don't have to measure ourselves against a list of things we do and don't do to please him. All we have to do is look within and see if we are reaching out to care for our fellow Christians. So when we have this person that is has a bad attitude, how can this person, this talk to the hand type of human being, win anyone else to Christ? He or she is not doing as Jesus did, isn't the spitting image of Christ, isn't offering anything for the world to see is good. This person is also, unfortunately, being disobedient. The call to love one another is clear in the verses we've just read. And disobedience is serious, which tells me that choosing not to engage others in the spirit of love is also more serious than we realize. So disobedience. 1 John 2:4 says, He who says, I know him, and does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his word, truly the love of God is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself to walk just as he walked. In this book, John's goal is to help believers avoid sin. That's why he's writing. And a good strategy to avoid sin, he's saying, is to walk as Jesus walked. Jesus, this is going to sound really obvious, but Jesus didn't shoot his enemies. When Peter cut the ear off the official in the garden, Jesus didn't applaud him or use the chance to escape. Of course, he knew what was coming and how important it was for the salvation of the world. Still, he went as far as to heal the guy's ear. He didn't get a couple licks in before letting them take him. And that brings us to the heart.
Good point.
Matthew 5:21 starts to break down how murder begins in the heart. And it may sound obvious, but the heart is the key to loving others. If we're struggling to love others, it's the sign of a heart problem. Jeremiah 17:9 says, The heart is deceitful above all things And Proverbs 4:23 instructs, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This verse seems to prove how murder can begin in the heart. Sadly, we've been seeing a lot of mass killings lately in the news. One study I read suggested that the United States has seen about one mass shooting per month since 2009. Often these cases involved one person acting alone, firing at other people. So what's the condition of our hearts? What dirt is clogging up that organ? What's preventing us from being loving? We're forgiven. We're heirs of Christ. What is there to be so bitter about? Right now, because of all these shootings, Washington is trying to find the solution to gun violence. They want to take guns away, which has some people upset. They want to be more responsive to mental illness, to catch it before you go crazy. But I wonder what's in the heart of someone so troubled that they think murdering a bunch of people is the answer. All that stuff that's built up in there, hurt, regret, anger, loneliness, depression, frustration, worry, it's all in the heart. It's a heart problem. Right now, like literally, right now, a former LAPD officer is a suspect in several shooting deaths in California. He's targeting other cops, and he has not been caught yet. He wrote a letter to the media explaining why he has gone on this spree. It's filled with bitterness. He says he was great at his job, but never got any credit for it. He says the LAPD took everything from him, and he says he couldn't have a family because of the job, so he's ruining the families of others. He's getting revenge based on emotions that have built up over a long period of time. In fact, it's weird that this would happen coinciding with my message. I kept thinking about the tragedy at Sandy Hook, and they haven't released details about the shooter or why he did what he did. But I may be overstepping my bounds a little bit, but the first victim was his mother, and that was his connection to the school. She was a teacher there. It doesn't take a huge leap to think he had things in his heart built up against her. He killed her, and then he killed the students. Maybe in his mind, he thought she loved them more than him. Whatever it was, I can see a connection there. I can't say that that's the truth. But in this particular case, the LAPD officer that's on the loose wrote down what he was feeling. And I was like, there it is. I have proof that it's anger, it's, just resentment built up. 1 John 3:15 says anyone who hates his brother is a murderer. Now this is taking it another step up. Nobody's killed anybody yet. They just have hate in their hearts. Doesn't that sound a little bit harsh? I mean, just because you hate someone on the inside doesn't necessarily mean you've ever acted on it, right? You may say, that person wronged me. Clearly, according to this verse, it doesn't matter. Recently, a friend of mine told me about a disagreement he had with his boss. And he's a very private person and probably wouldn't like me sharing this, but none of you know him, so hopefully he'll forgive me. But he's telling me about this argument he had, and at first I really wanted to say, you should have been the bigger person. You shouldn't have responded to him in the type of attitude that you had, because the two wrongs don't make a right. But I kept my mouth shut, and I just listened to what he was saying, and he was telling me the story. I wanted to be there for him. And what kept coming to mind as he continued to speak was that he was justified. His boss had clearly been wrong. And there's that word again, justified. Submission in the workplace is not easy, especially when you work for, I'm going to say it, a jerk. I can testify about that. I have firsthand experience. But let me tell you something. Isn't our God a God of position? We spoke last time that he likes order. He likes timing, but he also likes position. And didn't God give me my job? If I told you how I got my job, you would just, nobody else put me there. God did it, and it's very obvious. So if he gave the job to me, no man can take it away from me. I'm where I belong. And didn't he also put the people in position over me? Was God asleep when my boss got to where he was? Was it a mistake? I don't think so. So, for about 3 years, there was a person in leadership over me that was full of pride. He treated others very unjustly, and I did my best. I did the best that I could to treat this person with love. I prayed those 3 years for this person, and when the time came, God removed him from his position. I'm not joking. And it really surprised me. I was just going business as usual. I had learned to live with him, not just breathe in and out and smile and pray about it. And then one day, he was gone. And they removed him. It wasn't like he got a promotion or found another job. He was removed. I never had to threaten him. I never had to defend myself against him. God took care of it. And God even allowed me some insight into why this man was the way he was. I'm not saying that you'll get that sometimes when you deal with people. That shocked me. One day, this person who obviously had been an annoyance in my life just entered my office and started talking about his childhood. And I was like, okay. Nobody else. I work with 50 people.
Oh my God.
Nobody else knew what he told me that day.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't excuse his behavior, but I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why he is the way he is. We don't know that. If we have a bad attitude with someone, or someone is being cruel to us, you don't know what that person has been through. Sorry, let's see, where am I at? That is not to say that there isn't a time to fight. I'm not going to say that. A time to stop someone from walking all over you. My Bible says that there's a time for everything. The Israelites were always at war with someone, but the Holy Spirit will tell us when to fight, when to flee, when to submit, and when to pray. We just have to yield to God's will rather than constantly be defending ourselves against perceived slights. Isn't it better to let him defend you anyway? He's a lot more powerful. It seems like a major cause of the type of bitterness lodging in our hearts that would prevent us from loving those around us is perceived injustice. So let's talk about injustice. I don't want to downplay it. I don't want to belittle it. It's a terrible thing. How many of you have ever seen a film depicting the Holocaust? The things that happen to these people, I mean, it's unthinkable. How many of you have read the book of Job? It was not a fun time. Or seen the terrible face of injustice in your own life. Injustice hurts, it's cruel, but it also isn't for us to avenge.